Hey guys, this is the Real Estate Podcast and it's your host, Alex Kaufman. Now, before we dive into today's episode, I need you to do me a solid. Hit that subscribe button on your phone if you haven't done so already, and share this episode with just one person. It's going to help us get this information out to more people to learn about entrepreneurship and real estate. Thanks. Now let's dive into today's episode.
Now you'll work hard towards being the best, and then your energy will exude that, and then other people will see that. And then the universe, I don't want to get too metaphysical here, but the universe will then bring that to you. And I think it's really important to have that strength in your mind and mental fortitude to get through these moments, because that's what really separates, the good, the mediocre, the good, and the best, is how are you able to fight through those difficult times.
All right, welcome everybody to the Real Estate Podcast. Alex Kaufman here, and today we have a very special guest. We got Jeffrey Arromand. He is the coiner of the Power Pivot. He used to have a really successful career in television. He's a two-time Emmy Award winner, and now he is a broker with the Serhant Brokerage, and he's over in New York, right?
Indeed, in New York City.
All right, man. Well, thank you for coming on. I think people are going to gather a lot from today's episode. And if it's all right with you, I'd really like to just kind of dive into your background. It'd be good to hear how you got into television and how you made that power pivot into real estate.
All right, great. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. And just you were almost right on point with my name is Saint Arromand, but you were just
Arromand.
People always forget the Saint. I don't know why. I don't know if that's an omen or what. I'm not a really saint. Maybe I am. I don't know. But,
all right, well, let's do this. Today we got Jeffrey St. Arromand on the Real Estate Podcast.
Look at that. Second time's a charm. But so to answer your question, I started in television. I went to school at Florida A&M University. And then from there, I ended up working at CBS Sports. And then, I matriculated my way through, there, and also ultimately became a feature producer. As a feature producer, I did a lot of stories on, major athletes. I say everyone from Tom Brady to Kanye West, because we did Kanye West in a video once for the Super Bowl. So covered major events, and I kind of saw the writing on the wall where that industry was going, because I was what's called a permalancer, and I always had interest in real estate. And in the corporate world and television, they were looking to cut costs, and so I wanted to get ahead of that. And this was after the recession back then. And, I was always in edit rooms, like essentially like working on projects, but then being on the phone trying to broker deals. And my editors all turn around and look at me like, what, how much are you getting for this? And so after a while, I think it was time to make that pivot. And I decided to not just, dip my toe in, but to go all the way in. And as I made that pivot, I thought it was necessary to have coaches. And so I got involved with a lot of, coaching programs, Tom Ferry, Ninja Selling, Feeney, and the same thing here at Serhant as well. And so I always thought that I had a different type of skill set with the television background, and I knew the importance of content. So I wanted to combine the two. And there were, at that point, there weren't a lot of agents and brokerages that were really pushing that media aspect. And then ultimately I went to a few other firms, and I landed here at Serhant, and we have a in-house studio team, and I knew the caliber of work that I wanted to do, and working with them, I realized that they were very good, and they were like the best in the industry. So then I used that to really create my own niche and separate myself from the other agents. And that's what I do right now. Myself and my fiance, Tricia Lee, we're on a team together. And that's one of our differentiators, is that we're able to get a lot of eyeballs on your property. And so as a broker, I think that's something that's really important, and to really galvanize those eyeballs to lead to sales. And I think that's the key thing there, is to get to sales. And for me, the parallel, people always wonder, well, how do you go from, television to real estate? At the end of the day, it's storytelling. You're telling a story on how you will feel about living in this new property, not just exclusively the property, but the neighborhood. How can you
Mhm.
see your kids being a part of it, your family being a part of it, people coming to visit you, everything that's in the neighborhood, whether it be the museums, the parks, etc. So you want to tell that story, and frankly, the actual transaction itself, you're producing that as well. You're making sure that you align your buyer with the right mortgage broker that has the right product for your buyer. You're making sure that you have, like we talked about before, the eyeballs are on your product if I'm on the sell side. So you're producing the entire transaction. So that's really where there's a tremendous parallel between the two genres.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you started your background on Florida A&M, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So growing up as a kid though, I mean, tell me a little bit about you. Did you always want to be in television? Did you always want to be in real estate? Kind of, what was
You know,
going on with you as a kid and how were you raised that led up to where you're at today?
right. So there were two moments that I remember specifically. Um, I remember when I was, a kid, and I would always have a microphone, like a brush or something to be like the microphone. And I told my mom, and she always tells me this: "You told me you want to be inside of that television." And I know I
Uh-huh.
told her one day I'm going to be inside of that television. And at that point I was like, okay, whatever. But now in retrospect, I realized that I wasn't in front of the camera, but I was behind the camera. So that actually happened. And then also, my parents, I grew up in Brooklyn and we moved to Florida, I want to say my sophomore year of high school. And then there was a bunch of other families coming to Florida as well. And I became kind of like the quasi realtor because I was taking them around the neighborhood. I was showing them different different model homes and getting them to different construction sites and say, hey, you can build your house here, here's a land here. And I just didn't realize that I was actually a realtor at 16, just not getting
Hmm.
paid for it or getting a referral fee.
Yeah.
So those are things that now looking back at it, those were kind of like watershed moments that really led to what I'm doing now. And then also I have sisters that are ridiculously successful. One's like a orthopedic head of orthopedic surgery in a hospital in Baltimore. Another is like she's a angel investor right now, but she was what was she? She was a partner in a law firm at 27. So I had to really like get it together quickly. So
Yeah.
that was
So you
really
got
my impetus to really move it forward.
I got it. So you got two sisters?
Two sisters, yeah, two sisters.
What'd your parents do? Were they in television or
No, no, neither. Yeah, I mean, you would think so, right? No, neither were in television. One was in banking, and the other was medical records. So no, it was just and I'm my family is from Haiti, so you have first generation family coming here, really, they're basically a great American story. And then you
Mhm.
have their kids who take that and end up being attorneys and doctors, and then I'm the weirdo that end up going into television and real estate. But that's really what led to the work ethic I know comes from the parents, and then them instilling the importance of education, and that work ethic I think was important for me in a field that really doesn't have a basic structure on what leads to whether it be television or real estate.
Mhm.
You go to if you want to be a doctor, you go to med school, you go to college, med school, you go through school, and ultimately you're a doctor. Same thing with an attorney. There's no path, no road for entrepreneurship, and no path for television production. You just have to find your way. And
Mhm.
so that's what really I leaned on the coaching to help me with that, and on mentors to get me through that way, get me through that path. Because ultimately for me, I just wanted to really expedite that learning curve in
Yeah.
any field it is.
Yeah. Well, it's true. I mean, a lot of people go into real estate, and obviously you don't learn much in real estate school getting your license other than, maybe a little bit of a contract, some laws, and that's about it. Maybe a few math problems, but nobody teaches you how to make money, how to get leads, how to close deals, how to negotiate, and how to build a business. And so a lot of people, I believe, come in, they get their license, they're like, okay, got my license, now what?
Right.
And you really just kind of got to figure it out because there's so many different paths and ways, and there's no right or wrong answer. Like you're focusing heavily in the luxury side, right? We
Right.
focus pretty heavily in the investment side.
Mhm.
Neither is right or wrong. You just kind of got to get out there and find your own path.
Yeah, I agree completely. But I think what's important is to be able to have that diversity. So yes, I
Mhm.
do focus in luxury, but I do some investing as well. And as important as that is that I also work with developers. So I work with developers who are looking for investment properties, who lean on me and rely on me on where the next hot market is. Where the buyer's going, what are the buyers looking for, and as far as amenities and layouts and stuff of that nature. So I think it's important to, not immediately choose one side, right away, whether it be investing, whether it be luxury, whether it be, first time home buyers, is just understanding everything and then see where your niche and where your sphere of influence leads you to. I think that's really
Absolutely. It is. It's extremely important. It's what we call it as being the entrepreneur, and we capitalize the TRE.
nice.
But I mean, it's extremely important to have the ability to take advantage of any opportunity as it comes. Like the last 4 or 5 years, it was great to be a listing agent.
Right.
Now, at least here in Austin, it's not the greatest thing to have a bunch of listings, right? All the powers on the buy side. And so you got to be able to shift and move with wherever the opportunity is.
Yeah, and I would say that not only is it not, I mean, first of all, I say it's always best to be on the list side, regardless of what market you're in, because you dictate, when and if you're going to ultimately get paid. That's one thing.
Right.
However, though, I think what's important is being able to provide guidance to your clients on how aggressively to not list a property, or where the
Mhm.
market is currently, or what's trending, and what are buyers, reluctant about, whether it be interest rates that are at 6-7%, or providing something to the buyers that are coming in to say, hey, you know what, why don't you consider this mortgage broker that has, I don't know, 15-year arms at this rate. I mean, 15-year mortgage at this rate, or a 5, 7, 10-year arm, at that rate. So providing different ways, or even better than that, I have a broker that I have a relationship with that gives you, when you refi, covers your refi costs within a 2-year window. So if you refi in 2 years, you don't have to pay for your closing costs on that. So those
Mhm.
type of products that you provide, and educating, I think right now in real estate, with whichever side you're on, the cream's going to rise to the crop, because there are a lot of people. The entry, the benchmark for entry into real estate is pretty low, as you mentioned about, getting your license. So there are a ton of people that came in when it was, completely a seller's market, right? So right now is when you can differentiate yourself, because people are going to leave. It's not as easy. Just don't post something, list something, and all of a sudden you get, 10, 15 people putting in offers over ask. Now is when you really have to educate your clients and the buyers, and depending on which side you're on. And this is when you're going to really see great brokers survive and really get a larger piece of market share. And this is really where the opportunity lies right now. And this is, as an investor, whenever there's any type of, uncertainty in the market, there's opportunity to be had.
Mhm. Always. And there's always opportunity no matter, what's going on. I mean, we're seeing a lot of opportunity right now just on the investment side with seller finance deals, buying properties subject to taking over low mortgages.
Yep.
Uh, so there's always opportunity. You got to have the pivot. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the answer. You got to be able to pivot in a moment's instance because it changes fast.
Completely. And if you don't have inventory now, and all of a sudden the market shifts and becomes a seller's market again, then where are you? You know.
Right.
And so I think with investors right now, what I'm really telling them, I'm telling them to be aggressive, but they really need to look at their pro formas, because they have to adjust what the margins are going to be based on this market. So maybe you may not, and I always like to draw a sports analogy. Maybe you're not hitting grand slams right now, but you're going to get a couple of singles, you get a couple of doubles here, you get a triple once in a while, and you'll be all right, until the market pivots. And then you're able to acquire something and really get that grand slam. So I think it's really important to rely and to lean on, if you don't have brokers that you're working with, lean on brokers to get a real sense of where the market is in real time, because
Yeah.
all of these quarterly reports, they're all dated. That's from the previous months. And we know,
Mhm.
you mentioned it earlier, everything shifts in an instant, in a complete instant. And that could happen if and when the Fed decides to drop the rates, which clearly they're not going to do because they're going to raise the rates again. So that will just immediately shift the market. And you need someone that has the boots on the ground to tell you, hey, here's what's happening right now. Here's what I'm hearing from the buyers who are out there.
Yep.
And I think that's why the developers that I work with rely on me for that information.
Yeah, you're back to sports analogies. I've always thought of so I mean, the last 4 or 5 years have been great, especially in a market like Austin, Texas. It was pretty easy to hit home runs and grand slams, but I've always thought about the Moneyball approach to real estate. You familiar with that movie? And
Yeah.
what's his name? Billy Green with the Oakland A's.
Yep.
The goal is to get on base and score runs. The goal is not necessarily to get up there and hit a home run every single time. And
Right.
so if we can build a winning team of real estate assets that consistently get on base with singles, doubles, and we always score, then we're going to win.
Absolutely. And again, I'm going to keep the baton going with the sports analogies. But you think about, what if you hit three out of every 10 at bats, I mean, and that's your entire career, you could very well be a Hall of Famer. That you're batting 300. So, and I think that ideology can be said as well for brokers, for real estate brokers. You're gonna work, you're gonna do the work, you're gonna have systems in place, you're gonna have all the stuff that you need to have in place, and you're still not gonna see any return right away. It's gonna take some time. And then you're gonna make some mistakes, but ultimately, when you hit, you're gonna start to get the contact, and you're gonna get more hits, more singles, and then your career takes off. So you can't anticipate things to take off right away, but if you keep your head down, do the work, it'll happen.
Yes, sir. Well, tell me a little bit about this power pivot. So you said you coined the power pivot. Is this something that you teach to people to kind of make this transition, or what do you mean by you coined it and this is your thing?
Well, so here's I didn't tell you a little bit about my fiance that I work with. I think I mentioned we're on the same team, and so she did the same thing. So we both kind of realized, well, she had 3 beauty salons that were tremendous. I mean, she had tremendous business, got a lot of support from the city and from the borough of Brooklyn in general. And, that really did really well. But then after a while, she was tired and she wanted to go a different direction. And someone introduced her to me because I had done it just before. So I realized that, wow, there are a lot of other people that are seeing what I'm doing and kind of I wouldn't say in awe, but wow, look at this guy. He really went from the top of one field and went a whole different direction. And so that's when I realized, wow, this is like a power, again, the sports analogy being down in the post is like a power pivot, and then you go to the hole and you make a basket. So that's where that came from. And now, unbeknownst to me, a lot of other people who are looking to make that shift, especially during COVID, when now is an opportunity for you to change careers, a lot of people leaned on me and my fiance as well to find out, hey, what's your secret sauce? What did you do? But I think what's really important it's easy to make that decision to make the power pivot. What's important is how committed are you to learn the new craft and that time that's allotted, that you allot to that. There's a book, and I always forget the author, but it's the premise is just 10,000 hours. That it takes.
It's Robert Greene.
No, not Robert Greene. It's not Robert Greene, but it'll come to me in a second. Okay. But it's 10,000 hours, and it's you become an expert in any field after 10,000 hours of doing it. And then I really sat back and wow, actually in radio and in television, I was in college. I just lived. I did a work, what is it, that workstation, whatever it's called, when you get paid for working at someplace. I did that work study. I worked in a radio station and I worked in a television station for roughly 10,000 hours if I really do the math on that. And that's the same thing in real estate. If you put the time in for upwards of, that time of learning the craft, learning each market, learning the processes, having the systems in place, once you hit that 10,000 hour time period, you're going to be an expert in that field. And that's when the success is going to happen. And that's what I really tell people that are looking to make that pivot. That's the secret sauce, is the time. How much time are you putting in?
It's time you take control of your income. If you're wanting to flip real estate in 2023, we have the perfect thing for you. You need to invest in your knowledge. You need to invest in the experience so that you don't go out there and lose money. Flipping housing can be a big risk, but I've broken it down step by step to give you everything that you possibly need to flip houses successfully. We've just launched the House Flipping Made Easy course. This course is going to teach you how to build a great team, how to find deals, how to identify the best market to flip in, how to hire great contractors, great lenders, how to know what a good deal is, the 4 rules of flipping, and you cannot miss any of those 4 rules. How to get a property under contract, find motivated sellers, negotiate with them. We're going to give you the flipping calculator. This calculator details out every single expense that goes into your flip so that you can come up with the right offer to guarantee you get the profit that you need to make, how to manage the rehab, how to hire the correct listing agent, choose the right offer to make endless amounts of profit flipping houses. This course is broken down so that anybody could take it, no matter who you are, where you're at, or what you've been doing. Investing in real estate can be for anybody, so take action today on your future.
Commitment, man. I'd push back and I'd say if you make the decision and you don't follow through with that, then maybe you didn't really make the decision. You know, because I mean, it's I'm a big believer that anybody can do anything that they want to, so long as they're fully committed to it. And I mean, like real estate, it's not hard. Just takes hard work. I mean, consistency over and over and over and over again. You know, another thing is I don't necessarily you know, people have different viewpoints on this one, but I don't really look at anything that may go wrong as a failure, right? We're just learning along the way. And you know, I make mistakes every single day, but we just push forward, and whatever we want to happen, we're going to push it into existence. And so I just think it's really important, like people making that power pivot or anybody looking to do anything in life. You just have to fully commit to it. And I'm confident that anybody can be successful in it so long as, you know, they truly meet that.
No, I agree with you wholeheartedly. But I think the one caveat is that when people feel like they've committed time, what they deem to be as appropriate time for results to happen, and they don't get it, that's when they quit. And you know, whenever that moment when you decide to say that's it, you're probably a few hours away from getting that success. It's like when you put that much time in and you just stop and you just quit right then and there, you know, those successes are right behind that failure that you had. And so I agree with you completely about, you know, nothing is a failure. It's an opportunity to learn. You learn from it, you get better from it. You know, you'll take a punch, it might hurt. You may have to go down for 8 count or something to get back up, but you'll make sure you don't make that same mistake again, and you'll be that much better for the, you know, the next opportunity.
Absolutely. And I mean, you know, in that example, it's all about, you know, perspective, I believe. You know, whatever you say, you know, if you haven't achieved whatever results you're talking about, maybe you're just looking at it from the wrong perspective. I remember my first year in real estate, we bought 1 property, and then for the next, you know, 12 months, I don't think I made a single dollar in real estate. We were looking for the next properties to buy, but I was, you know, learning so much. I was working, you know, 18 hours a day, but I was having so much fun because the successes were not making, you know, $1 million that year. The successes were learning what I needed to do, getting better at my craft, getting sharper, making more connections. And those were the successes that propelled the growth forward, you know?
Completely. And I think what's really important, you know, and sometimes you got to take a step back and think about the psychology of things, especially as an entrepreneur. I mean, I think you have to be so confident and you can't allow your mind to waver. You know, like, is this the right decision? Is this what I should be doing? You have to know that it is, and you have to block everything else out. Now, granted, you have to, you know, like I said, have mentors, have coaches, whatever it is to help you along the way. But you have to know when you hit those low moments that this is still the right thing to do. I know the success is on its way, and just move forward with it. Because the biggest issue we have as entrepreneurs is what goes on in between your ears, because your mind is so powerful that if you say that you're going to be the best, you'll be the best. Now you'll work hard towards being the best, and then your energy will exude that, and then other people will see that, and then the universe, I don't want to get too metaphysical here, but the universe will then bring that to you. You know, and I think it's really important to have that strength in your mind and mental fortitude to get through these moments, because that's what really separates, the good, the mediocre, the good, and the best, is how are you able to fight through those difficult times.
Yeah. I asked myself, what would Kobe do?
Yeah, exactly. What would Kobe do? He'd go at it even harder.
Yeah.
What's his famous line? Job done, job's not done.
Yeah.
Job's not done. You
Yep.
have one success, that's good. There's only one success, but job's not done.
Yeah. I like using that analogy when speaking to people who, come and ask for help, and we kind of analyze what they've been doing, and maybe they're only putting in about 10, 15 hours a week. I'm like, well, of course you're not successful.
Exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
you want to be the best. You're doing, less than 1/4 of what the average people are doing. How are you expecting to be, making a lot of money right now? You got to go all in, and then you'll find the success.
Yeah. I mean, and that was part of my thought process of actually going all the way into real estate. And people ask me, can I do this? Can I do it part-time? I think if you want part-time success, you can get part-time, you put part-time effort in, you get the part-time results. So you tell me, what do you want to do? If you're
Right.
content with that, then all right, sure, do part-time. But if you want to get the results and have that financial freedom long term, you have to put the work in. You got to
Yep.
put the work in, you know?
Yep.
And I
Well,
think that's so important.
tell me a little bit about kind of what you're looking to build here with the athletes, and really building this ecosystem for them to give them everything that they need.
Yeah, so having worked with in sports for some time, I really got to understand the psyche of a lot of these. These are retired players, but they're still the same ideologies. Shannon Sharps, Dan Marino, Nate Burleson. These are the guys that I worked with all the time, and then going to the facilities, the team facilities, and meeting the players and interviewing them. What they want, what I want to provide is not just someone who solely, can help them find a property. That's relatively easy. Once you get through the gatekeepers and you have relationships with the business managers or the agents, then yeah, you can ultimately do that. But the key for me is to provide, and there are a lot of sports and entertainment divisions or firms that they have a sports and entertainment division, but I want to provide, like you said, that ecosystem where if you're 18, 19, 21-year-old that, is getting a deal for like $3 million, your rookie contract, I can make sure that not only will I help you find your place, but I can introduce you to a financial advisor. And these are former athletes that themselves can speak to what you're going through. And oftentimes it's that level of relatability that you really need to create. And they understand me because I've gotten in through their core system, and I've been vetted through their folks. And then if I introduce someone to them, I want to be essentially that one-stop shop where you can find your property, maybe have someone do help you with your financial situation, whether it be investment opportunities, or one thing that these young guys never think about, life insurance. They think they're going to, live forever and play football forever, or play, whatever major sport forever. And they don't really think about the grand scheme of things. So I want to provide that. And once I do that and they have that level of comfort, then it lends itself to a lot of referrals. Cause that's the pipeline of this business is referral business. So understanding that, I have attorneys who are already working with, current NBA players who, and it gets to the point where these players now, when they have any type of opportunity that's presented to them, okay, I'm going to send it to my attorney. I have him take a look at it. If he gives me the green light, then I'll move forward. Those are the type of relationships we want, where they know that they're being supported and has your best interest at heart, and giving you the opportunity to get on other investment properties that can lend itself for long-term wealth, after your professional career. And we know those, on an average lasts about 3.5 years,
Tell me a little bit about this potential problem that athletes or people in entertainment might have when they come into, big deals like that. And the reason I'm asking is I truly don't know the extent of it, but of course you hear about things or see things on TV or movies or shows about, maybe these guys somehow get taken advantage of by maybe, a family member, or, this person who's got this great idea for all this money to be invested in. And obviously, if they're just coming into a deal, then they might not have the proper financial education, or they might not know how to best, utilize the funds or set things aside or budget or whatever it might be. And so I'm curious if you kind of experienced this problem, kind of know a little bit more about this problem. And, obviously this is an ideal solution for those to have trusted advice from experts.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. The biggest issue and the crux of it really comes from the lack of financial literacy. And I think a lot of times, because if you think about it, in high school, we aren't taught these things. In college, unless you're or econ major or whatever, a business major, you really don't have there's no reason for you to take these courses. I mean, I think the way that could be alleviated is by starting that in even as low as elementary school. Start to have these conversations, with everyone. Forget about the athletes, but with everyone. And then when you specifically think about these athletes, some of them are coming from meager beginnings where they don't have, their households didn't have this plethora of money and didn't have all of these resources to know what to do with money and how to invest money. So I think the biggest issue, if you started the foundation, will be, implementing financial literacy to these to all the kids from elementary school, and have it be mandated up until high school, that you really have to take courses, understand that process. And oftentimes, and the other thing that you said too, that happens, is that you have family members, you have third, fourth, fifth cousins that come out of nowhere all of a sudden, and then they feel obligated to help them somehow, some way, as opposed to someone that may have a legitimate idea, a concept, and then if they don't have a team to vet it and say, okay, he doesn't even have a solid business proposal. He doesn't have a solid business plan. You shouldn't even deal with this. Or maybe have him go back and do a business plan. And then if he's able to do that, then maybe we could revisit it. I think it's really having a solid support system around you to eliminate that. Now, thankfully, I would say within the last decade or so, athletes are becoming more savvy. They definitely have, LeBron is the perfect example of that, being surrounded around people that have educated themselves, and they're all his friends that have educated themselves, that are able to give you good information and good insight, and structure good deals that are in your best interest. And that way you view yourself as a corporation, not just as an athlete, as a business, and you conduct yourself that way. You have meetings that way, and you vet things that way to make sure that your future is well taken care of.
Yeah. So it's gotten a little bit better.
It definitely has.
That's great. I imagine it would be a big issue if you don't have the proper support in place. And hopefully these guys or girls have strong people who care about them in their corner, but I'm sure a lot don't.
Yeah, I mean, and I think some people may have the people that they bring on board, they may think that they have their best interest at heart, but there are too many stories that come about where athletes end up being taken advantage of from someone that they thought had their best interest. So I think ultimately the onus lies on them, the athlete, but the onus also lies on the universities to bring people in that they vet, that they deem to be great professionals, and then to try to kind of bring them along, so that way when they're getting drafted, they already have their core team in place, and not always going to like your major agencies, or there may be someone else that can provide that support that you need, and that education piece that you need. I think that's even more important, because you just don't want to say, okay, my agent's taking care of this, my business manager's taking care of that, and you don't know what's happening. Like, you need to understand everything. Now, granted, you don't need to do the day-to-day, But if you are structuring yourself as a corporation, the CEO doesn't see everything that's going on, but he definitely meets with the CFO, often quarterly to know what the numbers are and what's happening. He meets with the marketing team to know what's being done, and get a full grasp of that. So if you position yourself and you structure your systems as a corporation, that will eliminate a lot of those problems that they've had. And that's where we come in. And that's what we're looking to do with our sports and entertainment division, is to not just, again, sell you a property, but is to align you with the people that can help you to build your empire, as it were.
Who do you so what do you think the full team is? So obviously real estate, what else? Financial advisor you mentioned, attorneys you mentioned, I believe.
Right. Attorneys, financial advisors. I mean, I think those are the three key. You have, if you're looking to do real estate, obviously having real estate broker. If you have an attorney that's great, a contractual attorney that can review all kinds of any contracts that are presented to you. Having a business manager and an accountant. So that way one can have those eyes and overseeing what someone else is doing. So you have an extra layer of protection. I think those are the four key components that's really important to make sure that you don't go down, you're not taken advantage of.
Yeah. And are you is this a big push that you're really kind of pushing for here, is to go this route?
Yeah, that's definitely something that we're pushing here. Myself, along with the support of Ryan Serhant, he's done a lot of deals with celebrities and entertainers. I'm leaning on my sports background. Like I said, I have the attorneys, one Hall of Fame player that's really that we have a meeting with to set up some alliances there. So just really structure it so that way, there's always a familiar name that these players know, that if this person is attached to it, then I feel comfortable with it. And that's what it is. And then most importantly on our end is delivering on the insight and providing a product for them. But initially is the hook to bring them in is having, a marquee name there that they understand and they really trust.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, cool, man. That's great. Tell me a little bit about real estate investments. If you own any, kind of what your advice would be to others out there who are looking to get started investing in real estate.
Yeah, we own 2 properties and looking to expand. I'll say one thing, I think what I always tell people is always contingent on the time and supply chain and everything else. But I think finding a place, and it's a kind of a big undertaking. I'll start by saying that finding a place that needs renovation is a property that you can get not at the top of the market. Renovation it could be intimidating, but if you have the right team to really help you, ultimately it'll be less expensive and you're able to get equity long term, more equity quicker. So case in point for me, I bought in a neighborhood that I knew as a realtor, this is going to be the next hot neighborhood. So I bought there early. I did exactly what I just said. I did a full renovation, and this was just before COVID. Thank God we ended just before COVID. So did a full renovation in the property, and now we have upwards of, I would say, about $500,000 in equity in over 3 years.
Where's this one at?
This is in Brooklyn.
Okay, in Brooklyn.
In Brooklyn. And now I'd say this, I ended up selling other properties in the neighborhood selfishly because I knew that would increase my equity value along with all my neighbors. But I ended up selling properties and then pushed the price point in the neighborhood. And then now I have the equity, and my neighbors have it as well. So it's like, if I were to give advice to anyone looking to come into real estate, try to figure out, and all this is contingent on your market, but try to figure out wherever the hot neighborhood is. So if you know what is a actual hot neighborhood, find the next neighborhood adjacent to that and look to purchase there. Because typically, wherever the hot neighborhood is, people are going to get priced out. These incoming buyers are going to get priced out and they're going to want to go someplace else. And so if you're in that someplace else now and you get there early, when that someplace else becomes like the previous hot neighborhood, that's where you get your equity. So, that's a general statement, but in contingent on your market, if you're closer to transportation, that's always key. If you're gonna end up living there versus renting it, that's something else to consider. Maybe you look into multifamily, so you do have a rental income with the property that you're living at. And what I always tell folks is look at the commercial corridor of that neighborhood and see what's coming in there. Obviously, Starbucks is in there. If Starbucks is coming in, it's going to be a hot neighborhood. But prior to that, if you're starting to see maybe more great mom and pop places are opening up that really take care of their storefronts and really, providing more service to the community. That could be that could be an up and coming neighborhood. If you're starting to see a strip of restaurants and bars opening up all of a sudden, that's a telltale sign. So look at those things, and you could see where the next neighborhood is going to be, and then jump there before it becomes hot.
Yeah, absolutely. And add value, right?
Absolutely.
You don't want to buy when there's no value to be added and hope
No,
for some value to come. You want to add
exactly.
it, create it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, there's some people that don't have the propensity for that. They just want to, their end user, they just want to have a finished product, and that's fine. But for those who really want to, get the equity, you want to get something where, to your point, you can add value to it. So if that means, you have to change a kitchen, you got to change a bathroom, you maybe change floors or whatever it is, just keep in mind, you don't necessarily have to do a full renovation all at once. You can piecemeal that renovation. As long as you're able to live there initially comfortably and is move-in ready, that's fine, but it's still some upgrading that needs to be done. You do the upgrading, and that's going to get your value. Like, it goes back to that whole notion of the grand slam versus singles. You don't have to do a full gut renovation to get a grand slam. You can move into a place that just needs kitchen updating, bathroom updating, floors redoing, maybe need to do a roof down the road or something, or if not the complete roof, at least like put another cover on the roof. So those little things that you could do will definitely add value to the property and ultimately add money into your pocket long term.
Yes, sir. You rent out the one in Brooklyn?
Yes, I do. I have. And so that's a great property there. We do Airbnb Airbnb there. And a lot of times that you can get a bigger return from Airbnb than you can from actually renting it out. And so that's what I'm doing now. So, and I'm also looking for another property to do Airbnb.
You know the numbers on the one in Brooklyn?
What, the Airbnb?
Yeah, like approximately what it rents out for.
Oh yeah. That we get daily about our day rate is 135. We're pushing that up. We're probably gonna, once we become in that one, we're about to, like, next week we're gonna get the super host status. So then we're gonna push that to 150. Excuse me. And then we have another property that we're eyeing, and that's gonna start at 200. So if you and we typically have about, I would say 80% where we're fully booked out. So you're looking at roughly, 6,000 a month, 6,000 a month, income there, and it's not, we have our cleaning person in place. And that's pretty much all you need. Cleaning person. Every once in a while, we'll upgrade some of the some furniture if need be, but that's a pretty good return. And we're really conservative with our numbers, so we can push those numbers. I think we're going to ultimately, probably by the end of the year, for that particular property, probably end up being somewhere around 170, 170, 175.
And you and your fiance, y'all manage it yourself with the team, the cleaning person, and everything else there?
Yeah, and it's that's pretty simple. Being in real estate, I'm always on all my apps anyway, immediately responding to people. So one thing I always get, oh, your response time is great. I'm like, yeah, it has to be, because any email or anything I get, any inquiry, I immediately respond. So that's an easy thing. So I handle, the I'm the client facing person, and she handles all the interior design and everything else on that end. So she's just like the silent partner, as it were.
Yeah.
But not that silent.
What about the other expenses owning real estate in Brooklyn? I'm curious. So we own everything pretty much here in Austin.
Okay.
But
Austin's a
in
super hot market, by the way.
yeah, hot market. It's the issue with Austin is and I'm sure probably similar to Brooklyn, that's why I'm asking, is really hard to cash flow in Austin, even with Airbnb. I mean, we got a fourplex that we do Airbnb out of, and we're actually converting it back to long-term tenants just because it's about the same. So I'm just curious, in Brooklyn, you got high property taxes. What are the biggest operating expenses that you got with this property? Utilities, of course, it's much higher with the Airbnb versus long-term tenant, but
Yeah, I mean, I think the property tax is a part of it, but I think also going back to what we talked about, finding the right neighborhood where the property taxes aren't as high. So I'm not certain how it is in Austin, but in Brooklyn, in different neighborhoods, your property taxes really are a lot higher. So if you're in like a Flatbush versus like a Brooklyn Heights, your property tax is going to be maybe 3 times more.
Hmm.
So that's and the other thing to consider as well, though, is that whether you do I think you're right. I was going to say whether you do Airbnb or have a long-term renter, obviously you're still going to have that tax cost to cover, but more income can be used towards that if you end up pushing your price points with Airbnb. Now, at least in New York, I would say, because we're such, and Austin is becoming that way, but New York is such, the demand is so much higher right now for Airbnb. Like, Brooklyn has become like its own brand. So everyone is coming to Brooklyn all the time. I mean, the same thing with Austin, but when you hear Brooklyn, like, oh, I want to go to Brooklyn. You don't want to go to the city. You want to go to Brooklyn. So I think that's been helpful with allowing us to really push the price points. And that's what's, made us, cash flow positive. But it's, I think what's really key is really determining the neighborhoods on where you can go and making sure that there's interest there, to determine whether you go Airbnb, enough demand there if you go Airbnb versus your rental, and to know what the rent comps command, and it with Airbnb exceed that, because the people coming in, they're just coming in knowing Brooklyn, and I wouldn't say they're less savvy than the renters. The renters know, oh, I will not pay this in this, in this market or in this location, in this neighborhood. Whereas the Airbnb, they're coming in to have the Brooklyn experience, and they think, oh, this is definitely cheaper than a hotel. So you can, and especially if your product, justifies it, you can push your day rate in effort to really exceed that of the rental. So you really have to look at the numbers that way, at least in Brooklyn, to make that distinction. But our one advantage is just, we're a great brand. Brooklyn is a great brand, and people will want to come there.
And you're a great brand. You got fastest response time in Brooklyn.
Yeah, exactly. Come on. You hit me up like, yeah, just last night. So I couldn't believe this guy asked me, one of my guests, he asked, so I'm doing what did he say? I'm doing a tour to Niagara Falls, and the tour starts at 3:30 a.m. Do you think I should take the train at 2 o'clock in the morning, or should I do an Uber? I'm like, good guy, come on. This was at like, I was at dinner like 9 o'clock, and 9:01, I said immediately, take the Uber. Any liability. Oh, my host said that it's great to take the train at 2 o'clock in the morning in New York City to go on a tour in Niagara Falls at 3:30 a.m. No, sir. But quick response time probably saved me some a lawsuit of some sort.
Yeah. Well, good, man. Well, what we've touched on it a lot. The power pivot, commitment, mindset, really going all in, hard work, education, coaching, team. But, so we talked about it this whole time, but if you had to leave people with one thing, to help propel them forward with whatever they're looking to accomplish, what would you tell them?
I would tell them that, as cliche as this sounds, I think it's so apropos that Rome wasn't built in a day. Social media gives you this misconception of everyone being, great flippers, great developers, great investors. That's just a highlight reel. I think what's really important is that you get the support that you need to learn the business that you're going into. Number one, you create the systems that make everything just, systematic. that this is what you do when you find a property. What are you looking for? Why should you invest? What's the ROI on it? What's the your post renovation costs? What's that going to be? And then just do the work and understand it's not going to happen right away, but it will happen. Continue to do the work. I think that's what I love to leave people with. Continue doing the work, making sure you're doing the right work. And then once you know the work that you're doing is correct, continue to do it. The results will come. Do not be frustrated because you don't see the instant results. And in this day and age, and this is really to, this younger generation that they want instant results. And this doesn't happen in real estate. It simply doesn't. And frankly, it doesn't happen in anything that you really want to pursue. But now the day and age of influencers and everything else, it kind of does happen right away. But I got to tell you, anything that you really want is going to take time for you to pursue and have that commitment to make it happen. The commitment to excellence. Like I'm going to end it with a sports analogy yet again. Like old Al Davis, commitment to excellence is what he said with the Oakland Raiders back then.
That's right. I agree completely. Well, you heard it here. How can everybody watching this come find you, come help you out? How can we help you out with what you're looking to accomplish?
Well, I'm reachable on LinkedIn, Jeffrey St. Arromand. I reach out to a lot of people on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram, JSA_sells_NYC. I'm the only JSA there is. You pop in JSA, you'll see me. I'm about to break the 100,000 follower mark, so looking to move forward with that. And you can email me directly. I'm at jsa@serhant.com. And I'll say this, I'll leave you with this that I can't really elaborate on, but you'll definitely be seeing me soon on a platform, a paid platform soon. How about that?
All right. we all wish you could elaborate more, but I guess that's what we're left with.
That's it. But more to come within a month. There'll be some announcements coming out. How about then we'll get back on and we'll talk more about that then.
All right, let's do it, man. Thank you so much for your time, and really appreciate you. And we'll see you in a month.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I enjoy this type of conversation, and hopefully people will get some good insight from this and they'll make their pivot and pursue their dreams.
Yes, sir. Power pivot.
Absolutely.